si banani pa wodi animu no kofi fasa private jet ibia na wo wa ban no you resign.
I'll resign because what may resign why shall I stay there? May resign because the mayor is on principle and yet personal and yet say ibia me time President Akufo-Addo and as I mean President Akufo-Addo. It's the principle. It's about protecting the public purse.
Hey, Sabrina, education minister na oda olem kuse mo abe resign.
Oh, may resign. I mean, my resigning free appointments committee of parliament.
And the appointment committee, no, say any allowance and more kwa na mojeje. And I be wo baby a minimum.
Appointments committee, what you say?
Okay, so there's an adage which says words matter. To expect. There's an adage I say words matter. In some ya and in some way do. Menu can say there are deep calls for Okudzeto Ablakwa to resign. Yes, I'm not mentioning words. Now, following Aturentema Esia, one more woman on the screens, 8 government appointees, be a military, air force, ministers, party chairman, we don't know the how, the when, the what, the questions, no, still we are asking ourselves. Black boss akwaba. This. Now, based on this, no, Reverend Tifojo, who is an MP and also in Parliament, and in Sembia to just fast forward, the New Patriotic Party, they have forwarded a motion to force the resignation of Okudzeto Ablakwa based on his own promise and words, and also on the fact say Okudzeto Ablakwa enkaneno the greediness in some no kasa Akufo-Addo jet or fly too expensive. In fact, the narrative about Akufo-Addo swimming pool on a jet mono, on a private jet mono. It came from Okudzeto Ablakwa. He brought a whole lot of documents. President a fly plane bakwa 1 hour, a fly plane 5 hours, 1 hour full on quiet $10,000. It's 10 hours, $100,000. A bit my building schools, a bit my roads. All of these things were consumed by the general public. Now, fast forward, no, times have changed. Who say plane na ye use from 2004 near that embwa etito yan sheni ya president anka so bebu. Why? Because the president nearly took that plane, and that plane anka sano during the former president's tenure, that's Akufo-Addo's tenure, no, it was written to him to change it, but the NDC was saying a waste of taxpayers' money whilst Ghanaians was suffering and you know almost and service. But fast forward, no, NDC who says our plane etito is here no usmo bi na also for private jet and helicopter free cross Mr. Menam form amebu ama mebusuafo mi wukura wa ase mebusuafo be hu memunu aye eye kama amame. Now, based on this, no, Reverend Team for Joy Party say Okudzeto Ablakwa should resign. It's no, me no can say no quote the social media handle page, the Twitter, or the Sembia Babetuja. He even went further to also say this on radio. But the Yensha and Sema Okai because he reposted a video. So that video no reposted, you know. Oshaha or say my principal Okudzeto Ablakwa, Ghana is expecting a resignation. NDC must apologize to Ghanaians and President Akufo-Addo for doing petty politics with presidential travels. Ghana must be bold to submit proposal for the acquisition of new presidential jets for presidency. So now he's saying, he says, see, arguments are not NDC NPP for ye making during the past years that we need a new presidential jets. No, this was some of the reasons, because if we lose the head of our country, on mine, at that whole pine. I say, anything can happen. Coup d'etat, military takeovers, enemies with my attack. So we need the president to be in charge, because only the first commander, the commander in chief. Now, Papai answered in seven in audio form. Our party Ghana for this is the argument I'm making. Yanko TSR video, the video of also a year. Paul Adomochi is trending because can be a man for a party say Paul Adomochi, basically he is a prophet.
So on which basis are you calling on the foreign affairs minister to resign?
On the basis of the irresponsible politics he did with presidential travels. He vowed clearly, and you have all your tapes, that he will resign if any president or vice president travels on a private jet. Since they assumed office from January to this point, there have been occasions where the vice president and the president have used private jets. I have no problem with it. I have stated time and time again that if the state security apparatus determines that a vice president or the president should travel on private jets or any other suitable means of, aircraft, that should not be a subject for discussion. But they did politics with it.
And you say I made time President Akufo-Addo, and as I mean President Akufo-Addo, it's the principle. It's about protecting the public purse.
NDC banana nipa wodi animu no kofi fasa private jet TV. Now who are ben you resign?
I'll resign. Because what may resign? What may resign? Why should I stay there? May resign because the mayor is on principle and yet personal. And you say I made time President Akufo-Addo, and as I mean President Akufo-Addo, it's the principle.
Viewers, what shall we say to these things? This is Okudzeto Ablakwa. He's not just any minister at all. Today he's the foreign minister, and therefore he must have had a role to play in the decisions made by the government on how the vice president returns to Ghana. He's the foreign minister, and also one of the great pets of the vice president. The vice president, and I say pet, I mean pet in quotes. The vice president really likes him because they work together at education. And the vice president has testified on Okudzeto Ablakwa many, many times. And he's a good guy. There's no doubt about that. But he's not just, you see how God works. You see, God can embarrass you. This is God embarrassing people. You are foreign. He's not a Greek minister. If he's a Greek minister there, he's sitting somewhere looking at his farm, doing planting for food and jobs and doing in kokon kiti and those things. And the vice president flies over his head and comes to Accra. Fair enough. But here you are, Minister for Foreign Affairs. Vice president goes to London, it's foreign affairs. Vice president is coming from London, it's foreign affairs. So right in the foreign affairs, right on his desk, he must have played a role in the decisions that were made to fly this luxurious private jet. We have no problem with that decision. We think it is correct. It's a correct decision. The vice president has been unwell. She's coming in. In fact, even if we still had the presidential jet, but it wasn't in the States as comfortable as can take somebody who is just recovering from some short illness, we shall still fly a presidential jet. How much is the flying the presidential jet for Ghana? Ghana's GDP is what? Flying the vice president who needs it. Needs it is the point. The vice president needed that. Why should we not do it? We should do it. But because of what Ablakwa said to milk people and to get power, that is why we are talking today. Otherwise, it is nothing. If this happens in other jurisdictions, it is zero. Because some of those politicians don't do what we do in Ghana. I always told you that Joe Garte told me that people don't respect politicians because of what politicians say about politicians. People think parliamentarians are thieves because of what parliamentarians... Have you ever heard an American congressman saying that another congressman who is in power is a thief? Have you ever heard a British MP saying that another MP in the government is a thief? They never say these things because they know that you can't prove it. So you shouldn't say it. They argue with them, they tackle them, but they never call them names like thief and crook and all that. But here in Ghana, because some people know that without that they cannot come to power, they cannot argue on the basis of what is happening and bring them to power, they always must take advantage of human feelings. Economy is difficult. Price of maize is high. Price of kenke is high. So the president is a thief. That is why the price of kenke is high. Cecilia Dapa is a thief. That is why you are broke. That's why the country is broke. Because Cecilia Dapa has stolen all the country's money and put in her house. 6 months into office, Cecilia Dapa has not been even questioned. That's a beautiful video of the vice president arriving. Oh, yeah, I like this video. I like this video. I like this video. Oh, that's President Mahama. You know, President Mahama is very calm. He allowed his wife to do the embrace and all of that. I think that's great. I think that's great. Let's get back to that Ablakwa story. Let's get back to that Ablakwa story. So this is Sami Okudzeto. He has played a role in this video that you just saw in getting the vice president in. He sat on radio because he wanted Ghanaians to look at him as a saint and therefore elect the NDC into power. He said, which he didn't have to say, that whenever he's in power, and he didn't even limit it to the president too. He said the president or the vice president does something like this, he will resign from the government, assuming that he will have a ministerial position. That's what he said. That he will resign. Now he's foreign minister, and he's the one who has given birth to this story. The story of Jenano Pokwa Jiman flying in a private jet to Ghana. Ablakwa said, if this happens, he will resign. Do I think he should resign? No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. He's a young man, just started a foreign ministry. He has opportunity to make something happen. Why should he resign? I don't think he should resign. But he must have the presence of mind to come out and apologize to Ghanaians. Like Fifi Kwete did at the appointments committee. Ablakwa must apologize to Ghanaians that I said it. I meant it then, but looking at the circumstances now, I shouldn't have said that. He should say it. He, Ablakwa of all people, should say. Otherwise, one day, he may find himself as foreign minister flying the private jet himself. God knows how to let that happen. God, he knows how to let Ablakwa himself fly a private jet into Kotoka International Airport. And he will wash his face and wonder whether he's dreaming, and he will not be dreaming. It is he, Ablakwa, who has... Do you remember Peter? When Jesus told Peter that